All right, so we are doing a quick overview of the G3, ReadyJet G3. A couple things to go over. We're going to just go over the a quick idea of how the machine operates. I'm not going to run it. It gets quite loud, so you can't hear me talking when I'm actually operating the machine. But just a few things to look at on the machine. We've got some other materials that can show you the actual operation. We also have startup procedures for you as well. But a few things to go over quickly so you can understand how this machine operates. So once right here is where the remote is going to plug in. It's got a long cord. The cord is probably about 30 feet long, so it'll reach everywhere you need to go. If you need to walk around the machine, you can get pretty much anywhere with the remote in your hand. The remote controls multiple things, and you can control it, and you can do some of the controls from down here as well. With this inside this screen, you have some controls, but for the most part, you're going to operate, and you cannot you cannot manipulate the actual boom and nozzle from this point right here. But there are some things that you need to check. We'll go over that on a different video, but you want to start the machine by putting in the remote. Once the remote is in and on, you can turn on the machine. Once the machine is going, the engine will start cranking. Once the engine cranks, it's going to push some water into the pump, or I'm sorry, out. It's going to want to pull water into the pump. The pump is located over there. So as it does, it pulls water out from there around in these 2-inch lines. You want to make sure all these lines are all completely locked with all the clamps locked. You have 2 filters that the water is going to go through. First, it's going to go through 25 micron filter. The filters are a fabric material. They are pretty long. It's about 2.5 feet, maybe 3 feet. They're going to go down all the way to here. It's about 5 inches in diameter, 5 to 6 inches in diameter. Both the filters look almost identical. They are marked differently. We have lots of filters, but you can get those filters through Blasters or ReadyJet. Filters, you're going to want to make sure, just like in anything, that is where the water goes through, so it affects the water pressure. If you're not getting enough pressure, one of the first things to check is the filters. Make sure that there's no leaks in here, that there's no water coming out. You've got everything completely sealed. These things, these clamps right here, screw on and off, pull off, open up. This top will come off. It seats in there with a gasket under there. All things to look at to make sure that they're sealed properly. And again, the filters sit down inside there. You can just pull those filters out. Those filters can come out pretty easy. I wouldn't recommend reusing them. Take them out every now and then. Just check them, make sure that they are clean. They can get caked up depending on the type of water that you use. But there's 2 filters, 2 different types of filters, in fact. So you got 25 micron, then a 5 micron. Obviously, the 25 micron is going to let more debris through, more water, so you're not going to lose any pressure through here. But as you start getting into the 5 micron that goes back toward the pump, that's filtering out the last little pieces. Obviously, you don't want to have any pieces go through this pump. This thing is operating with this 300 cat motor and goes through this pump, goes through the filters, back through these 2-inch lines, 2-inch line into the pump right here. The pump shoots it through this 1-inch line all the way around the boom, and all the way wraps around through the boom into the nozzle in the front. We'll go look at that in just a moment. Right here, this water tank, 330 gallon water tank. One of the first things you want to make sure you look at is that this valve right here is set to open, so that way the water will go down and flow into the pump. You don't want to run it dry. You want to get the water going once you've got the boost going. Want to make sure that once that is going, if ever you lose any pressure or the machine is giving you faults, just come in, double check these pistons. This is the clutch right here running this is the whole pump unit right here. So this pump unit is what's pressurizing the water coming out. This is a regulator that goes on here, bypass valves. You want to have this on. It's just a blow valve to make sure that you've got if you've got any backups, that it regulates and has a place to relieve itself. In order to operate the wand, which is an external piece, this is the hose for it. There's another wand. It's about 4 feet long. Shoots 10,000 up to 10,000 psi. You really don't want to run it up to 10,000, but again, you can control it through this knob right here. The pressure. Once you set the machine to where you want it, you can set it up to 17,000 psi. But then, of course, you can control the water from here, and then you'll run the hose off of that. It's a different piece. We'll talk about that. That's for cleaning externally on or anything. It's basically a 10,000 psi power washer that has 2 nozzles that rotate at 10,000 psi. You can use that. It's very effective at cleaning the concrete off the back of trucks or anywhere on a truck, drum, the back of trucks, the hoppers. I mean, you can clean anything with it. But again, 10,000 psi, just be very careful. Shoots with a lot of force. It can do some damage if not aimed at something that can withstand that type of pressure. So now that we've talked about some of the operation, let me go back to this back side of the pump while we're here. This pump is going to be operated by this wheel right here. The wheel is belt driven. The clutch is going to turn on. That's one of the steps of starting the machine. So when you turn the machine on, you've got it running. You want to check and make sure that your boost is set, and we'll go over the boost. The boost is going to be set, and you'll read it on this gauge right here. You want it to be set around 80 psi. Anywhere from 80 to 90, in between 100 is fine. As long as that stays stable, you can run the machine. You don't want it to be dropping below 80. If it does, you're going to have to check to make sure the pressure, that there's not water leaking somewhere, the pressure is coming in properly, the filters are set right, but it has to operate at least 80 on the boost. Again, this clutch wheel is belt driven, so I don't know if I can get down in there so you can see it well, but you can see under there there's a belt. Sometimes after a lot of use, this machine is vibrating every now and then. You might need to adjust the belt, just tighten it up. The way you're going to do that, this pump rides on these bolts here. These bolts are adjustable. Right here, you can open it up. There's 4 bolts, 2 on this side, and you can see over there the other one. 2 on the other side. There's the bottom of the bolts down below the machine. You have to get down there. And up here, loosen those bolts enough to where you have play, and then you can turn these. Best to use a power driver to be able to turn it. It's going to be, you can use hand wrenches, but it can get a little bit tough. Hand wrenches here, but to move this actual pump, you're probably going to want to have something that has some power behind it. So again, if you can use a power driver, that'll work great. You just turn it, tighten it to where you need it to tighten. So it'll pull that wheel to the point to where it moves, and you can loosen and tighten the belt. If you need to change the belt, that's how you're going to change the belt. If for whatever reason it snaps, we've never had to change the belt ever, but it is something that you can imagine will happen one day. So if it does, that's the way you're going to change that. And like I said, every now and then, I think it's happened to us twice, and over 1,000 trucks that we've done where we've had to adjust the belt just to make it a little bit tighter. We felt it slipping, so we made the adjustment. So back to how this operates. A real quick overview. The operator is going to stand at the top of this tower. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of quick rundown down here, and then I'll go up in the tower so you can see the view of what the operator is going to see. But just to give you an idea how the actual the boom and the torpedo works with the nozzle. Quickly, the torpedo here is made right now. It's in line with the boom. It's in its flattest position that it gets, but it will go up to, I want to say, probably an 80 degrees, close to 80 degrees, 75 degrees up, and it's hydraulically actuated, but it's made to drop down and raise up as the blades turn inside the truck. The only time that you're really going to have to drop it down is if you're pulling it out. And there's controls on the actual remote to be able to do that, but you want to raise it up so that way you can get to the top of the drum while you're inside the drum, and you can get behind the blades. And when you're up there, when you're in there, that torpedo is going to constantly go up and down as it works its ways through the blade system, so it can reach up into the machine. It's made to actually go up and down on its own when you have it set to the up position. And if for whatever reason it catches on something inside the drum, you have the ability on the actual remote to just drop it flat to make sure that the drum is spinning freely. And then you can raise it back up again. But you have to run it in the up position throughout the back of the drum, especially because it's such a cavernous area that if you're not running it up at the top position, it will not get close enough. As much pressure as you've got, it still won't get close enough to be able to blast the concrete off the drum. Which is the next thing to think about. There is about a 1/4 inch nozzle inside this casing right here. That nozzle is going to oscillate around that small circle. It oscillates from the bottom up to the top, 168-degree radius, okay? 0 to 168, and the 0 is down here, and the 168 is back in the back. So that's your level of play that you can actually control the nozzle. There's multiple points that you can actually control where that nozzle is actually going to hit. I'm going to go up here real quick and show you what that looks like inside there. So if you look up inside that nozzle housing, you have your nozzle right here. Looking right at it, as you can see, I mean, it's about a 1/4 inch stream that comes out at 20,000 psi. So it's not going to cut through your drum, it's not going to cut through your blades, and in fact, it's not even cutting through the concrete. What that nozzle is made to do is to blast the concrete off of the drum, blast it off of the blades. It looks for weaknesses in between the blade and the drum, and sometimes it causes enough force to actually just hit the face of the concrete and pop it off the actual blade as it vibrates inside the drum. The drum is going to be spinning. Once you put it down in there, you want to spin it. If you had a speed dial on the drum, 0 to 10, 0 being the slowest, not moving, 10 being the fastest the drum will turn, you want to turn that drum anywhere between about a 1.5 and a 3, depending on how much debris you got and how fast you want to be able to pull that, how thick the concrete is inside it in any given area. But you're going to want to make sure the drum is turning, not too slow that you're just hitting the same spot over and over and over again, but not too fast that you're not getting it enough time to hit a few times and then work. Because as this drum is turning, that nozzle right there, you've got it set to your, whatever your range is that you want it to go. It's oscillating up and down. You can control how fast it does it, and you can control the range that it does it. You can have it come all the way down to this point and go all the way back to the back. You can have it go from a certain range to a certain range because you really only want it to hit the top of the drum for the most part. There are some ranges that are recommended for certain parts of the drum that will provide for you. And depending on where you're at in the drum, and as you start to get familiar with the operation of the machine, you will have a good idea of where you want that nozzle to be and the multiple ways that you can control that nozzle. Again, you can control the speed and the angle of the nozzle as it works the drum, as the drum turns. A point of maintenance that you're going to want to make sure that you do every time you operate the machine, and if you're running it for long periods at a time, you might want to stop in intervals and do this. You can see right here, there is a little bit of dead concrete that got in there. This housing is open right here, so as you're blasting concrete or water into the machine, into the drum, the machine is in the drum, the torpedo's in the drum with the concrete, it can shoot back and bounce back into here. I'm not gonna have a whole lot of issue with it too much. There's a chain inside here and a couple of wheels. You wanna make sure that the chain in here and this area is free from debris. So again, before operation, you're always gonna do it, but intermittently, you might wanna do it just depending on how many trucks you're doing, how long you're running the machine, because this area can get full of little chunks, big chunks, and then powder, a lot of dust. So you're gonna have to clean it. There's a couple of screws that you wanna take out, bolts, just best to use a power driver again with this. Real quickly take them out. This plate will come off right here. It will expose the nozzle and the cranks. The chain is on there. Sometimes you'll have a situation where if you didn't clean it, the chain might snap. There are replacement chains that are included in the parts kit, along with filters. I think there's a belt and some other wear items in there. Pretty big parts kit. And then of course you can order parts from Blasters at any time. Dan over at Blasters, great guy, Dan Spada. They have a fabulous support team. They're pretty much there for whenever you need them. If you can't reach them, leave them a message, they'll get back to you. And then of course, a lot of this that I'm going over is in the manual. So if you just go through the manual, there's troubleshooting there for you, things that you can look at, things if the machine's not operating properly. Open the manual, take a look, and it'll give you some guidance on where to go. But yeah, again, make sure that this is clean inside of here, so that way you extend the lifeline of the chain that's inside of there. But if the chain breaks, you can easily replace the chain, just create a new one. Or take out the old links, however you need to. But always keep this clean. At least once before operation, and possibly intermittently, depending on how often you're running it. So as we said before, this torpedo is made to go up. So this will raise, and as I get on when I get on the top of the tower, you'll see back in the back there at the top, so it doesn't pinch, it just shoots up. It's got a cavernous area that allows it to be able to move upward. As you can see, the blades are going to rub against the outside edge of this. This is just normal wear. It's going to have to. You want the torpedo to actually ride the blades. So that torpedo is going to come down as it's up in the air, angled like this. It's going to come down and up on its own. There is a time where if it happens to get caught somewhere on the blades, and you start to see this torpedo go this direction too much as the truck is spinning counterclockwise, you want to drop that torpedo, and then as soon as it gets past that point, just shoot it back up. And again, let the blades ride it as it goes. And as it goes from one set of blades to the next, in between that area, it's going to shoot itself all the way up to the top, which you want it to do. This is the oscillator. It'll get back into the corners where the corner of the blades are. It'll hit the top of the drum, and it'll hit under the blades as it's coming out. And as it's coming out, it will blast that concrete